On the 13th of February 1984, 59-year-old Virginia Hannon was called multiple times by her stepfather's housekeeper as he wanted the spare key to her stepfather's house. He didn't get any response, so he decided to check in on her as he hadn't seen her for a couple of days. When he entered her house, his eyes widened in shock as he found Virginia on her bed, brutally strangled with a pair of her stockings. Who would kill a 59-year-old widow? Why would someone kill a person who was only known as loving and friendly? Was her caring nature the reason for everything? Welcome back to Mysterious Hook. Today we'll be looking into the cold case of Virginia Hannon, which was solved after 37 years. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please consider subscribing. Hit the like button and click on the notification bell to get the latest content. Without any delay, let's dive into the case of disbelief. Pembroke is one of the oldest towns in the state of Massachusetts. It is in Plymouth County in the greater Boston area. Forests around the city provide building materials, energy, and a place for wildlife to live. Early on, the town was known for its shipbuilding business, which did well because it was near a river and had easy access to wood. Virginia was born to Helen and Thomas Hannon in Malden, Massachusetts in 1926. She was the eldest among 4 siblings. She had 2 brothers named Paul and Thomas, and a sister named Barbara. She moved to Pembroke with her husband after they got married. They were living an ideal life until everything suddenly changed drastically. Her husband died in 1971. From then onwards, she was left alone in their beautiful little cottage. Everyone was familiar with Virginia due to her generosity and helpfulness. She cared for many of the stray dogs that were in her area and fed them regularly. Nobody went hungry under her care. Before that, a small update. Allow us to thank Athena Interior for sponsoring this video. They are proficient interior designers that provide high-quality products straight to our homes. It ranges from bathware, kitchenware, homeware with lights, rugs, and artworks. To visit their pool of collections, type athenainterior.com and boom, you will land into traditional and elegant decors. In addition to the vast collection, they also have professional customer service for listening to our concerns. Now, coming back to conclude the case. Every time someone visited her, she would provide them with plenty of drinks, homemade cookies, and other baked delicacies. It didn't matter to her if they were new or were already known to her. After working for many years as a cook and lunch lady at Bryantville Elementary School in Pembroke, Virginia, she was on the verge of retirement in late 1983. Virginia's stepfather, who also lived in the neighborhood, was one of the people she cared for most. She would prepare his lunch and bring it to him every day. However, for 2 consecutive days in February 1984, lunchtime came and went, and Virginia was nowhere to be seen. Finally, on February 13th, her stepfather's housekeeper called her multiple times before deciding to visit her home to see if everything was okay after numerous unsuccessful attempts to get in touch with her. He entered her house just to retrieve an extra key from her, but instead he discovered Virginia on her bed, having been brutally murdered. The housekeeper was so shocked that he could not even think clearly as to what action to take next. Virginia had multiple wounds clearly visible on her body, and she was partially covered by her blanket. Hearing the screams of the housekeeper, a few of the neighbors came to see what all the commotion was about. They too were stunned, seeing Virginia's lifeless form. Everyone in the community was shocked at Virginia's passing because she was so well liked by the majority of people who knew her, and none of them could imagine someone harming Virginia. Then, without wasting any more time, the housekeeper called the police. The area around West Street was a very quiet place to live. Even the newest family had been there for more than 10 years. However, on that day, all the activity made people question why the Pembroke police were in their neighborhood. People slowly began to find out that their neighbor, Virginia Hannon, had been found dead in her bed. When the police walked into the cottage and saw the body, even the most experienced of them was speechless. They were left in disbelief by the brutality of the scene. I think it was the most brutal murder we've had in the history of Pembroke. She was assaulted, she was kicked, she was punched. She was stabbed, and she was strangled with a pair of her own stockings, said one of the officers of Pembroke Police Department. The investigator looked around and saw someone had messed with the front door and the window. It likely meant that the killer had broken into the house when Virginia wouldn't let them in. This could have been why they robbed and attacked her. There was also a shoe print on her stomach, which led police to think that the person who killed her might have kicked her as they killed her. The police knew that Virginia lived on her own, so before they talked to her family, they talked to her neighbors and friends who lived close by. The neighbors told the police there wasn't a single reason someone would want to hurt Virginia. After interviewing a large number of people, the police found that Dolly Smith was the last person to see Virginia alive. Virginia and Dolly were extremely close friends and had been so for a very long time. She had last seen Virginia on February 11th, 1984, according to Dolly. It was a Saturday, and Virginia and Dolly had planned to go to church as they usually did. Dolly said that she and Virginia had visited St. Joseph's Church together that evening. The distance from Virginia's house to the church was roughly 4 miles, and the evening mass started at 5 p.m. as usual. After church, the two women had gone to BR's restaurant, a place they frequently visited after church. The restaurant was roughly 7 miles from the church, and they had dinner before leaving. It was around 7:30 when Dolly dropped Virginia off at her house. Other than the murderer, Dolly was the last person to see Virginia alive. Dolly also said that Virginia had difficulty breathing when climbing the stairs to her house. This was because Virginia had emphysema, which caused her to have breathing problems while engaging in any physical activity. Dolly also informed the police that she had seen Virginia carrying $100 when she dropped her off. But the money was missing from Virginia's wallet when the investigators searched for it. On both Saturday and Sunday, the neighbors did not hear or see anything. They heard nothing unusual or anything that would have suggested a struggle. According to the autopsy, shortly after she returned home from church on Saturday was when she was murdered. As the police continued their investigations, they learned about Virginia's aunt, who had lived in California before she passed away. When she died, she had left a huge sum of $380,000 to Virginia. Virginia was considering taking an early retirement from her position as the elementary school's cook and lunch lady after receiving this inheritance. Virginia never showed off her newfound wealth, although she did tell a few people about it, according to her nephew. She was not embarrassed to talk about the money her wealthy aunt had left her as an inheritance. She was a very honest person and would answer questions from anyone. She was the kind of person who would chat with total strangers and share details about her life. She had also kept a portion of the money at her house, though she deposited most of it in a bank. Those who knew Virginia well claimed that the murderer may have believed that she had money hidden in her house, and that this was the reason someone broke into her home. The investigators spoke with more than 50 people, but they were unable to get any fresh leads in the case. Without any clues or leads, the case soon turned cold, and it looked like the police might never be able to figure out who did it. Her family tried to keep the story alive and in the public eye by regularly speaking to the media. The Pembroke Police Department also kept looking at the case. Investigators held a vigil in 2019 to mark the 35th anniversary of Virginia's death. With advances in technology, they also found that the DNA samples they took from the crime scene all came from the same person. The only thing that was sure was that the DNA was from a man, but they didn't know who he was. They tried to find the suspect through forensic genealogy, but it didn't work because there was nothing to compare it to. So, Virginia's case was again put on hold. Virginia's murderer was unidentified until an individual called the Pembroke Police Department on February 4th, 2020. The individual informed the police that Jesse Aylward, his friend, had confessed to killing Virginia Hannon in Pembroke in 1984. Police discovered that Jesse Aylward, 58, had passed away the previous day, on February 3, 2020. With the help of this information, the police were able to secure a warrant, locate Aylward's body at Brockton Hospital, and take a blood sample. After that, they discovered a match between his DNA and 3 pieces of evidence discovered at the crime scene. The 3 pieces of evidence were the nylon stockings that were used to strangle Virginia Hannon, the shattered glass, and the bloodied paper towels. Jesse was about 22 years old when Virginia passed away. In March 2021, the Plymouth District Attorney's Office made the information public. Virginia most likely did not know him, which is why she refused to let him inside her home. But the detectives did confirm that there were no known ties between Jesse and Virginia. But at the time of the murder, he had resided near her house. Although Aylward had a criminal history that included some violent behavior, the police had not suspected him during the initial investigation. The victim's devastated relatives thanked the police for their unwavering efforts, but they said that the news was bittersweet because it came after the suspect's passing. "I'm so glad they finally have someone," Judy Hannon said. "Would I like to see him go in handcuffs? Yes, because that's what he deserves." Considering the advancements that have been made in forensic technology, this case does give hope to many people who have loved ones who have been separated from their family for a long time. These technologies could assist in solving a significant number of unsolved mysteries from the years gone by. What was your take on this case? What do you think about the initial investigation of the police? We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Meanwhile, please subscribe to our channel. Until we meet again, stay safe and keep watching Mysterious Hook.